New Jersey Nightly News with Don Torrance and Kent Manahan.
Good evening. Cancellations and commuter confusion at Newark Airport as the nation's air traffic controllers defy the law and strike.
In sports, Bill Perry has the Cosmos, tennis, and horse racing. And the Renaissance Newark project renews charges of discrimination in the construction industry. We'll take a closer look tonight.
Air travelers face long lines, longer delays, and canceled flights tonight as air traffic controllers began a nationwide strike this morning. President Reagan has threatened legal action and mass firings of strikers. He added the government would not negotiate while the controllers are off the job. A federal judge in Newark has ordered the controllers back to work pending a hearing he will hold August 11th on the walkout. Judge H. Curtis Meaner said the strike is doing irreparable damage to the nation. At Newark Airport, about 30% of today's flights have been canceled, many more delayed. Reg Wells has more.
If you wanted to travel by air, you had to have time to spare today. Planes were backed up this morning and passenger terminals were jammed with people scrambling to get on flights. The FAA ordered most major airports in the country to drop 50% of their flights, and at Newark, 33 departing commercial flights were canceled between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m., and 18 commercial arrivals were also canceled at their point of destination. Commercial airlines were operating at about 80% of capacity, but corporate jets and helicopters were grounded completely. Supervisors were manning the tower at Newark Airport and had to work 12-hour shifts today. The tower normally requires 8 people per shift, but there were only 4 supervisors here this morning. And 2 commercial jetliners came within a quarter of a mile of each other about 40 miles north of New Jersey. The government, however, insisted that safety would not be sacrificed. We monitored the control tower radio frequency this morning, and some of the supervisors may have been a little slow getting used to their new routine of actually controlling planes.
November 430 Newark, correction New York approach, radar contact 3 northeast of the Patterson radio beacon. Navajo 430, roger, Newark, correction, Newark area altimeter 2, correction 3001.
Most passengers had no way of knowing exactly what to expect until they actually got here to the airport. Now, it had been automatically assumed that most flights of less than 500 miles would automatically be canceled, but that turned out not to be the case. People Express operates short-haul trips almost exclusively. Out of 33 flights today, only 3 were canceled. Airline officials said they made advance arrangements with the FAA last week to keep their flights in the air. U.S. Air, on the other hand, was caught off guard and had to cancel all its flights, including such long-haul routes as Minneapolis and Indianapolis.
When we arrived, so we originally had an 8:18 flight out of here to arrive in Indianapolis at 9:04, and then they advised us that everything was canceled up until 12 o'clock, and that there was another flight leaving at 12:15, and that was tentative until they again found out what the situation was. So now one of the gentlemen over there came over and told us that 12:15 flight has been canceled, and now the next one is at 7:59 tonight.
You're not going to wait for that one?
Oh, no.
The walkout also had a mushrooming effect on the rest of the airport. Cafeterias that normally are mobbed at lunchtime had more empty seats than the airlines. And taxi drivers were also hit by a drastic drop-off in business. No flights, no fares.
You know, the early part of Monday you usually move pretty fast, but we are running at least about 2 hours behind what we normally would be.
This morning, President Reagan personally expressed his displeasure over the strike.
That I must tell those who failed to report for duty this morning, they are in violation of the law, and if they do not report for work within 48 hours, they have forfeited their jobs and will be terminated.
The Controllers Union did not set up picket lines at Newark today, but they were out in force at LaGuardia and Kennedy. And the union says the Reagan administration is using scare tactics to break the strike. The union also claims the administration did not bargain in good faith and forced the union to strike, which the union says it will continue to do. I'm Reg Wells.
Meanwhile, as part of the FAA contingency plan, 101 military air controllers have been dispatched to airports around the country. 7 controllers from McGuire Air Force Base in Burlington County are already at work at Kennedy Airport in New York under FAA supervision. At this time, there are no plans to send military controllers to Newark Airport, although the Army and Air Force are set to provide 150 additional controllers if the FAA requests. Military officials say providing those controllers will have no effect on capabilities at their bases. At the state's medium-sized airports today, traffic was very light and many flights were canceled. Not because of the strike so much, but because of fear of the strike. Steve Taylor explains.
Teterboro Airport in Bergen County is one of the nation's busiest terminals for private and corporation planes, but there were few flights today. Airport officials said that was probably because the business pilots, expecting a traffic snarl, stayed away. In fact, supervisors in Teterboro Tower were ready to handle normal traffic. The same was true at Trenton's Mercer County Airport, where only a relative few private planes were flying. Allegheny Airlines commuter service at Mercer spent the day expecting trouble getting into big airports like Newark and Philadelphia, where the larger airlines get preference.
Will be affected first. The shorter segments are going to be affected first. The longer haul segments by the major carriers will be the last ones hit. They'll have the priority over the rest of us.
But today, Allegheny flights were taking off and landing without trouble. More than a dozen Allegheny, New Jersey flights were canceled, but that was because so few passengers showed up. And those who did had doubts.
Going to Dayton, Ohio. I have a job interview out there with a chemical company.
A job interview now. It's possible that you're going to be late for a job interview as a result of it.
I've already alerted them, and I'm going to give it my all and hope to get there on time, but if not, they'll understand, I'm sure.
What happens if you get stuck halfway from here to Memphis?
Oh, don't talk like that. I don't want to hear this because I'd rather stay home.
But Mrs. Jones went, willing to gamble that supervisors in the towers will be able to keep the airports operating. The pilot of this plane told us that will be more likely in good weather. As long as it's mostly clear, planes fly under visual rules, which require fewer controllers. But if the flying's on instruments, it's more complicated, and the manpower shortage will really be felt. At Atlantic City's Bader Field, officials said instrument rules would mean more cancellations. And at Teterboro, it would mean no flights at all. I'm Steve Taylor.
On a positive note, there's more than $100 million in improvements slated for Newark International Airport. The expansion project announced by the Port Authority today includes a 600-room hotel, a $40 million small plane hangar complex, and a $20 million air freight terminal. While many of the project have been under consideration for some time now, today's announcement signals confidence on the part of the Port Authority that the airport will continue to grow in future years. Kent?
Governor Byrne was among several hundred guests at a groundbreaking ceremony this morning in Newark. What made it special is that the 18-story office tower planned for the site will be Newark's first privately financed construction in about 10 years. Susan Niesloss has more.
Community leaders, along with the governor and Newark Mayor Ken Gibson, met at what used to be a parking lot, soon to be the home of One Washington Park. The $37 million office tower project is being financed primarily by Mutual Benefit Life Insurance Company, plus a federal grant. New Jersey Bell will be the main tenant, planning to lease 13 of the 18 floors for 20 years. Company officials say that symbolizes local businesses' pledge to revitalize the downtown area, and the governor agreed.
I think that the next governor of New Jersey is going to have a lot of fun dedicating a good many of these significant projects for which we have broken ground in the past few months.
Outside the tent ceremony, the mood was not quite as happy. A group of black construction workers who were outnumbered by the police on hand protested alleged discrimination on construction projects like this.
What do we want? No! When do we want them? Now! What do we want? No!
Demonstrators who belong to the Federation of Employees, Union Local 1027, claim the AFL-CIO has excluded them and want the mayor's help. Gibson claims the issue has nothing to do with affirmative action and says it's out of his control.
The local union 1027 is involved in a jurisdictional dispute with the AFL-CIO unions. So we're dealing basically with a protest that is associated with a union jurisdictional dispute as opposed to affirmative action or black-white or any of the affirmative action concepts.
What the mayor has sent down to us is that he's going to give us his cooperation, and he's going to make sure, or he's going to do everything that he possibly can to see that the affirmative action plan is set in place and operates properly. That means he sets up all the devices, monitoring and so forth on, to see that this happens.
One Washington Park is expected to be completed by late 1983. With members of Local 1027 still hoping they'll work out an agreement with the AFL-CIO and the mayor so they can participate in Newark's rebirth too. In Newark, I'm Susan Niesloss.
Later in this broadcast, we'll take a closer look at the controversy surrounding affirmative action regulations and their impact on new office construction in downtown Newark. Don?
Caesars World Incorporated founder Clifford Pearlman has recommended that firm withdraw its operation from Atlantic City. Pearlman charges New Jersey's regulatory agencies don't understand the industry, and state officials and politics are hurting casino expansion in the gambling capital. Pearlman is on a leave of absence from Caesars. He's awaiting a Supreme Court decision stemming from allegations that he has ties to organized crime. Now, the decision will determine whether or not Pearlman can remain in the Caesars World operation.
Police are searching for 3 inmates who escaped from Sussex County Jail in Newton by prying open a window with a towel rack and lowering themselves to the ground on knotted sheets. A 4th escapee surrendered to an area housewife this morning after becoming separated from the others. The break, which occurred yesterday, was the first in the jail's history. The 3 inmates still at large were awaiting sentencing on a variety of drug and burglary charges.
3 young children are dead and their mother remains in guarded condition in a Trenton hospital today. Their South Trenton apartment was destroyed by fire early yesterday morning. Investigators have pretty much ruled out arson as the cause, but Dan Hodgson reports there are still some troubling questions.
It's not uncommon in many of the lower income neighborhoods in Trenton to have wire mesh screens nailed on windows as a protection against burglars. Regina, Crystal, and Arnita Gary, ages 7, 8, and 9, were asleep in this room with the wire mesh when fire broke out downstairs in the kitchen of the family's apartment. Fire officials think a gas stove was left on after everyone had gone to bed. The girls died of smoke inhalation and burns and were found on their bedroom floor near the wire and meshed windows. Antoinette Keys is the girls' aunt. She says the window screen is the reason the girls couldn't get out and is angry at the landlord for having them on.
Well, I don't feel that it should have been up on the 2nd floor, no way, even though he was scared of, anybody breaking in. I can see about the downstairs, but not the upstairs. It shouldn't have been.
But Fire Inspector George Lenhart says the fire spread so quickly that he isn't sure the girls could have gotten out, even if the screen had not been there. Still, he says screens nailed to windows are a problem that needs attention.
It's a very poor practice. There's not a whole lot we can really do about it at the present time. People feel more secure with the screens over the windows. Again, if they want to have security screens, have it set up where there's a pin or locking type device where they could make exit from the inside of the building.
Still, for a lot of people, nailing screens on windows is the cheapest way they can find to keep their homes safe. So far, there's no city ordinance against it. In addition to the wire screens, Lenhart says many of the homes in South Trenton, Asbury Place neighborhood don't have smoke detectors or telephones.
Yesterday's fire wasn't reported until it was too late to do much of anything. When firemen got here, they found low water pressure and small water mains, making their job even more difficult. They say that these factors probably wouldn't have changed the outcome of yesterday's fire, but that's the 2nd fire in this area in a year. And they say that next time, these factors will likely lead to an even greater tragedy. In Trenton, I'm Dan Hodgson.
A stubborn fire burning underground at a South Jersey landfill is deeper and wider than fire officials first thought. The fire has been burning under the Kramer landfill 6 miles south of Woodbury in Gloucester County for a month. Over the weekend, workers using heavy equipment began to break the fire out of the ground in an effort to put it out. Fears that high levels of toxic fumes were being produced by the fire have eased. Traces of cyanide gas in the area have been detected, but they are said to be below danger level. The Department of Environmental Protection thinks the fire, fed by underground accumulations of gases from decaying garbage, could burn for 2 more weeks. Don?
Let's take a look at the weather forecast now. Tonight will be mostly cloudy with our temperatures in the low 70s. Tomorrow should be warm, but with a chance of afternoon showers. The highs will be in the upper 80s. And the outlook for Wednesday, partly cloudy and warm.
The ambitious Renaissance Newark project hopes to generate more than $500 million worth of new office construction in downtown Newark. But as we reported earlier, a small group of unemployed minority construction workers picketed the groundbreaking ceremony for the new Washington Park office tower in Newark today. Charges of racial discrimination in the construction industry are not new to Newark. Tonight we take a closer look. Today, the campus of the New Jersey College of Medicine and Dentistry in Newark is calm. But in the late 1960s, angry community meetings were the order of the day, as a battle raged over whether the college should be built and who should do the work. Eventually, an agreement was worked out. A special training program was set up for minority construction workers who were guaranteed jobs both at the medical school project and on new housing being built nearby. But after the college was completed, many of these same minority craftsmen found themselves out of work. In downtown Newark, new construction had virtually come to a halt until the new PSE&G Plaza was built. It was here that charges of discrimination once again surfaced, as some unemployed minority construction workers charged they were being excluded from the project, a charge union leaders and city officials denied. The central question is whether AFL-CIO unions have discriminated against minority construction workers in general and Newark residents in particular. That's the contention of John Soares, president of Local 1027 of the Federated Employees Union, a union independent of the AFL-CIO.
Minority workers, black and Puerto Ricans, could not get into the building trade unions. We formed this union back on February 24th, 1975. We're registered with the U.S. Labor Department, Labor and Management.
The National Labor Relations Board has in part agreed with John Soares, citing discrimination by other unions as the reason behind certifying his independent local. But Leonard Coleman, director of the Greater Newark Urban Coalition, says the issue is wider than just John Soares and his union.
On a wider perspective, I think we get into issues as to how downtown development relates into the community and what type of impact the development will have on unemployment and particularly unemployed construction workers in Newark, so that it is a 1027 problem in competition in a sense with AFL, as well as being a broader problem, one of employment.
At Newark City Hall, representatives of the Gibson administration say there isn't any discrimination problem when it comes to hiring workers for new construction jobs. Turner Construction, the New York-based firm which is the prime contractor for the Washington Plaza office building, says it has received assurances from the Essex County Building Trades Council that minority construction workers will be given an equal chance to work on the project. But can the AFL-CIO provide enough minority workers to satisfy affirmative action laws? The State Department of Labor and Industry has been trying to find out just how many minority workers are members of AFL-CIO construction unions. New Jersey Nightly News has learned that in 1979, the state signed contracts with the New Jersey Building Trades Council of the AFL-CIO to prepare reports on minority participation in construction unions. The council was initially to be paid $115,000, but that amount was progressively increased. The information was supposed to be submitted to the state in November 1979. Later, that deadline was extended to January 1980, then to September of that year, and finally March of this year. The data still has not been turned over to the state, despite payments of nearly $200,000 to the New Jersey Building Trades Council over a 19-month period. It's odd that the AFL-CIO would have difficulty collecting this information, since the unions annually submit reports containing basically the same data to the Federal Equal Employment Opportunities Commission. Despite repeated attempts, New Jersey Nightly News was unable to reach the leadership of the New Jersey Building Trades Council or the Essex County Trades Council for comment. Newark requires that 25% of the work done on tax-abated construction projects be performed by minority contractors. The city law will affect all of the new office building work contemplated for downtown Newark, Washington Plaza, the addition to Mutual Benefit Life's corporate headquarters, a proposed private office tower slated to be built on this site. Prudential Insurance plans to add to its successful Gateway complex, but since the PRU will receive federal aid for that project, they must follow federal EEO standards, which call for approximately 30% of all jobs to be held by minority workers. If there are not enough minority tradesmen in local AFL-CIO unions to staff these projects, where will the workers come from?
They would bring in minorities out of different areas, not from the city of Newark. okay, but from New York or from Baltimore or from Philadelphia and bring them in and give them a contract. That's what's been happening throughout this whole construction industry.
It used to be if you could just put black faces or other minority faces out there, then that was all well and good. But I think what we've done is we've reached a point as to, from the community's perspective, where do they come from? For instance, those who have been on the front lines fighting those battles and getting major unions to open up their ranks to minorities. These are the very people who are being locked out.
If members of John Sorry's independent union are hired by developers to help meet affirmative action guidelines, AFL-CIO unions will most likely walk off the job. If Newark residents, many of whom want jobs on new construction projects and have adequate training but belong to no unions, are hired, the same thing will happen. But with Newark's high unemployment rate, it's going to be difficult to tell residents they can't get work in their own backyards on projects city taxpayers are helping to subsidize through extensive tax abatements. The revitalization of downtown Newark is a goal that everyone favors. In the long run, it can only benefit the city and its residents. But the dispute over affirmative action could slow down, perhaps for years, the redevelopment process.
Sometimes scenes have to play themselves out. You oftentimes can see at the beginning of an issue which direction it should take, but people aren't willing to move in that direction until things come to a head. And the quicker we can, in a sense, come to a head, but come to it through peaceful, legitimate means, I think the better off Newark and the entire Newark community will be.
The Washington Park office building is not officially part of Renaissance Newark. The project was on the drawing board before the Renaissance Newark plan was conceived. But the building is seen as an indicator of things to come in the downtown part of the city. If serious affirmative action problems surface there, there could turn up in other Renaissance Newark projects in the future. Don?
Ken, what about those contracts the state signed with the Building Trades Council? They were supposed to get some information on minority participation. What's the status
That's right.
of
We
those?
checked into that, Don, and we found out from a representative of the Department of Labor and Industry that the department has pretty much given up hope of getting any of that minority participation data from the Building Trades Council. We also found out from the representative that they are not going to get back any of that $200,000 paid out to the AFL-CIO to compile that data.
Thank you, Ken. And when we return, Bill Perry will have information about a rare Cosmos loss. And here's Bill with tonight's sports. Bill.
Thank you, Don, and welcome, Kent. You might figure the Cosmos suffered a natural letdown after clinching another NASL Eastern Division title last Wednesday night, but that just doesn't wash because the Moes are in a battle for the overall league points lead with the home field advantage throughout the playoffs in the balance. So last night's Cosmos loss 2-1 to Jacksonville wasn't a so-what affair. 36,408 at Giant Stadium while they welcomed Johan Naskins back, but the Cosmos lost. They took a 1-0 lead on Giorgio's goal, 33-10 in, Canalia's 28th of the season, left-footed. T-Men tied it at 1-1 just 6 minutes later. This is how Hubert Birkenmeyer, Cosmos goalie, sees it. Eduardo Marasco is the goal-getter. And the Jacksonville T-Men got the winner, a header, with just 10:36 left in the match. The long pass, and then Jorge Berrio will head it in past Hubert. The richest harness race of the year, the Woodrow Wilson Pace, will be run at the Meadowlands tonight. There's a $1.7 million purse, and 13 two-year-old colts will go to the gate. No Nukes is the favorite. Perry's pick is Mackenzie Almahurst. Saturday at Monmouth Park, it was the $200,000 Haskell Handicap for Thoroughbreds. 6 3-year-old colts started with all the attention aimed at Jersey-owned Lord Avey out of the SKS stable. Lord Avey never out of the money in 14 starts. This was Avey's first real test after a leg injury put him out of the Triple Crown races. He'd been idle since March except for an allowance tune-up at Monmouth in mid-July, but Saturday belonged to 5-Star Flight.
5-Star Flight holds a 4-length lead with Lord Avey second as 5-Star Flight in front. They're not going to catch Five Star Flight. Is Five Star Flight now widening by 6 lengths. Five Star Flight winning it by 5 with Lord A.V. second. Onriote third.
And over the weekend, the Meadowlands Arena hosted its first sporting event, the $80,000 Meadowlands Grand Prix. The two-day show jumping package drew 15,000 people to the arena as it served to kick off Hambletonian Week at the Meadowlands. 43 horses started in qualifications on Saturday, but by Sunday's finals, the field was narrowed to 25 horses and riders. Appropriately enough, a New Jersey native, Leslie Burr, took home the Grand Prix title and the $12,000 check that goes with the victory. Burr, now living in Connecticut, rode Chase the Clouds to victory. It was the horse's first Grand Prix win this year. And the week-long Mutual Benefit Life Open tennis tournament wrapped up yesterday at the Orange Lawn Tennis Club. The finals in both men's and women's singles. Pat Scanlon reports.
It was Shlomo Glickstein, the 50th ranked player in the world, battling Dick Stockton, a player ranked 201st and trying to win his first tournament in 3 years. Glickstein won the first set 6-3, but Stockton rallied furiously to win the second set 7-5, avoiding 3 match points in the process. But in the deciding third set, Glickstein overcame a 3-1 deficit for his second Grand Prix championship, taking the set 6-4.
Very, very happy to win this one. It was a very tough tournament to win, and I had a few very tough matches, especially today. That was the toughest one.
Meanwhile, in women's singles, Kathy Horvath in the far court made it look easy. She's less than a month away from her 16th birthday, and yesterday she defeated top-seeded Virginia Rizich in 2 sets, 6-0, 6-4. In doing so, Kathy notched her first professional victory, earning $4,000 for her top finish. This was match point. Horvath over Rizich. In South Orange, I'm Pat Scanlon.
So Horvath and Glickstein, the winners, and we were going to show you some slow-mo of Shlomo, but we decided not to. That's sports.
And that's the news. For Don Torrance, Bill Perry, and the rest of the nightly news team, I'm Ken Manahan, wishing you a good night.
New Jersey Nightly News is a joint presentation of New Jersey Public Television and WNET 13. The program is broadcast weeknights at 6:30 p.m. on Channel 13 and 7:30 p.m. on New Jersey Public Television. There's a repeat broadcast at 10 p.m. on New Jersey Public Television and 7 o'clock the following morning on Channel 13. Portions recorded.